Well, hey, you watched my earlier videos. You saw me, I believe, last winter, which was in August here, install this water line because I needed water down there to put our gate in. I really didn't like screwing it into the fence post, but I didn't want to be digging in the mud and stuff, and it was easier to do now. And I wasn't ready, so now I'm ready, and we got the hole dug, which is probably 100 meters, 150 meters that we did. And I have to remove the blue pipe, which is the water line off the side, put it in the trench. I have to put the conduit line for our electrical lighting at the gate and for our gate opener in there as well. And today's the day to do that, to at least get the lines in the ground, I hope. So Tom is going to take a few shots of that. Why am I even shooting this video? Well, if you're doing your own homestead like we do, this is infrastructure items that you progress throughout your projects, throughout your life of your homestead. And it simplifies things to be able to take care of watering. Right now we're in our dry season, the summer here. We haven't had rain in about 2 weeks. It's supposed to rain tonight and tomorrow. But if you see, some of my trees are a little dry, especially these newer ones, and I've been watering by hand. It's much more efficient to put an irrigation system on, and it's actually a lot less work. You come out and turn on the valve and everything's going. And then there's other benefits. I can water the livestock out here and run a spigot off, or tap off of all of them. So I do have water on the other side, and it goes underground about 3 meters, which is about that deep, yeah, to the garden, which the big tap's over there. And I have another big tap here behind me if Thomas can get a shot of that. I'm going to tap into that with valves, and here, I'll get out of the way for you. And those valves are going to be able to let me turn on the irrigation for the trees and for whatever else I'm watering. And also that big line, the blue hose is 25 millimeter. That 25 millimeter line is going to be for water taps, and it goes all the way down to the gate at the opposite end. So anyways, so in a nutshell, you have to know how to do these things, because if you were paying somebody to do this, it'd be a couple of $1,000 at least, just in labor and the machinery and all that, unless you have your own machines. And for us, I don't have a tractor. One day when I grow up, I'd like to have a tractor. So what I use is my muscle, and it's actually probably good for me, even though it's exhausting work and it's hard work. So there's my project, and that's my short video for the day. I'll have Thomas come back and take a couple of shots later today, and you can get a progress of what we did. So anyways, thanks for coming by. God bless you. Please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends and family and pets about me. Ask them to subscribe. I'd really like to up my subscribership this year. If anybody has any advice, please do that. So ciao from Chile Expat Family for the time being.
Hello and welcome to my greenhouse. It's January of 2020, and this would be like July in the Northern Hemisphere. And growing in my greenhouse this summer, I have, here is a Brandywine tomato, which I have up on strings. I'm trying the strings this year because the ceiling here is low, and I wasn't able to get a stake in deep enough that would be enough support for the tomato, so I'm trying the strings. It's an idea I found in one of the videos I like to watch on gardening. I have some Egyptian onions growing back in here, and then I also have some cilantro here, which I started in the winter time, and even though it's kind of overgrown here, I can't get coriander seeds here, and cilantro makes a seed that they call coriander spice. And if you can see on the end of some of these flowers here, right here, these are little seeds. And you have to let them dry on the plant, and when they turn brown, then you can harvest them, and I'll have coriander spice for making curry and chai. And then on this side, I've got some more tomatoes. This is a yellow tomato that was given to me by a friend. I don't know what variety it is, but I'm having a problem with some yellowing of the leaves. I'm not sure what is causing that, but the flowers are still being produced in the plant there, so maybe I'll still get tomatoes. Underneath it here I have lettuce that I planted last winter. And we've been harvesting, and finally when it gets really hot it's going to seed. Here you can see that the leaves unfortunately become bitter and you can't eat them, but I will save the seed for more lettuce plants for next year. And I have some parsley here which I had started in the winter, but it's also starting to blossom. This is a kale plant. Most of the kale I started here in the winter and moved out to the outside beds, but this one didn't make it out. Over here is a dill plant. I love dill, and I started this also last winter. It doesn't really produce much leaves after it starts to blossom. You can see here are the blossoms, and I'm going to let that develop into seeds so that I have more dill seed for next year's plants. Ooh, that one just broke. Ooh. Oh well. I can use that in my pickle jar. Okay. Here are more tomatoes. These are all the same variety on this side of the greenhouse. They're all the yellow tomatoes because I really love it. There's one of the most flavorful tomatoes I've ever had. So I have about 10 or 15 plants of those. In between the plants are peppers. Just hopefully that's just a regular green bell pepper. Behind it I have some cucumbers over there. You see it behind those two. It's blossoming. I also have lots of volunteer raspberry plants coming up because the raspberry patch is on the other side of the greenhouse and they spread by underground runners, so they come up everywhere. And back in this corner I have more tomatoes. You can see this one right here. Look at it, it's longer shaped. That's going to be a plum tomato. Okay, and then down on this side I have more of the San Marzano plum tomatoes, which I'm trying for the first time this year. And so far I haven't been really impressed with them because these tomatoes were started at the same time as those tomatoes. And I barely have a tomato on these plants yet. But we'll see. There's still time. And they are finally starting to produce blossoms, so maybe I'll get enough to make a pot of sauce. And outside my greenhouse I have a bed of peas here, which I've been harvesting. The tall stuff is acelga, Swiss chard, acelga in Spanish. It's rainbow Swiss chard and it's going to seed, so I'm letting it do its thing. It's really tall. And the yellow daisies are just weeds that I didn't pull out from between the peas. In this bed I have parsley, some nasturtiums there, and then these are all going to be bush beans, green beans. And at the end of the bed, way down there, is my giant artichoke plant. Artichokes do very well here. In this bed I have maybe 3 or 4 varieties of kale. And then towards the end I have some Swiss chard, and at the very end I have a rhubarb plant. In this next bed at the end you can see the blue flowers, that's borage. I've got some asparagus in there which I just started this year, so it's too small to see. This tall patch right here is the mint. And up front I have some comfrey flowering and some echinacea coneflowers. These are calendula, which I've been harvesting. This plant actually survived from last year. It survived the winter here, so the frost wasn't really hard this year. And I've been harvesting the flowers to make oils for lotions and soaps. You can also eat the petals in salads. And the rest of this bed is carrots and beets. And then here is another bed of peas. This right here is a lemon sorrel and an Egyptian onion. This bed I have turnips, broccoli, which needs to be weeded, and then I have some chamomile and lettuce and sunflowers and stuff towards the end. This bed I have some different squashes, cucumbers and squashes down at that end. And the last bed here is sage and thyme. in our fertilizing rabbit hutch. Who drops out the bottom so that you can fertilize your garden with it. You can put it on straight. It doesn't need to be composted. It doesn't have enough uric acid in it to burn your plant, so you can use it fresh. Okay, and here we are on the other side of my greenhouse. We have some fruit bushes. Here's some beautiful blueberries, which I'm going to eat. These plants have only been here, this is their second year, so they're not real big yet. But next to it here, we have raspberries. This kind produces a little bit in the spring from the old canes. That's last year's canes. These are the new canes. They won't produce until this fall, late summer. I have a whole row. These were given to me by a friend, a neighbor, and they spread prolifically. I have them trained in between these two wires to kind of contain them. And on the other side of this bed, I have some boysenberries, more raspberries, but mostly these big canes right here are boysenberries, and these were given to me by a friend. They're really the biggest, juiciest blackberries I've ever had. They're really beautiful. And they vine more than the raspberries do. The only problem I'm having with them, which I'm not quite sure what to do about, is if you look at this yellow leaf here, I think it's got some kind of insect problem, and I'm not quite sure what to do about it. Doesn't seem to be affecting the berries, but if anyone has any ideas, I think it might be white fly or aphids or something, though I don't see any insects. And along here, along the driveway, I've got these 3 pear trees on this side. They're new, they were just put in this past winter. And then on the other side I have apple trees. We have about 12 apple trees, and we have Granny Smith, Fuji, maybe like a Jonah Gold, and one other one I can't remember. But this is their second summer. They did produce a few apples, but we removed them, and so the tree could grow more and become stronger before it starts producing. And we did tie them up because we get a lot of wind down here, and we wanted the trees to grow straight. I think maybe we can remove the strings in a year or two. This right here is a gooseberry, which we've never had any fruit off of because our geese eat them, or the chickens. This was given to us by a friend. And this was also a gift from a neighbor, is a cherry tree. Now, we've never had any cherries off of it yet. I'm hopeful. But we have a problem with this worm. Here, you can see one right here. This little black, shiny worm. Every year they come. I'm trying to get rid of them by hand, but it's not working, and now the tree is too tall for me to reach, so I think I'm going to have to spray with some kind of copper spray, because these little worms will totally defoliate the tree. So if anyone has any ideas on how to take care of cherry tree pests, let me know.
Well, we got the water line in, the blue line, and it's really smart that I didn't fill it in right away, because we found a leak in it, and not where there was a joint. There was actually a crack in the line, a little kind of bubble in the PVC where it weakened it, and it just had a good leak, so we fixed that. So we got water in the blue line all the way down to the gate at the other end down there, and now it's lazy day Saturday, and tomorrow Sunday too, so I'm just gonna try to hook up some irrigation. And this is a irrigation line that I've got right here, which is specific. It's kind of black plastic, yeah, and I put T's on at each section, and that leads to a drip line that goes around each tree. And the problem is I had the drip line on the ground going down, but the water doesn't make it to the end. It doesn't have enough pressure, so I need to run pressure along the line and have runouts to each tree. So that's what I'm doing now. But so that's where we're at today, and we'll have irrigation around the whole farm when I get done eventually. And this conduit, this water line will get buried here, and we're going to put a conduit line in there next across. I got to do another 20 feet of digging, which is always fun. Everybody loves digging. Sorry about the wind today and the microphone blowing. I wish there was some way I could fix it on this camera, but it doesn't let me do it.